I think the most appropriate way, when you've got a pattern, which you have at many companies of what they do on options, is simply to make an educated guess as to the average option issuance that they're going to incur or they're going to elect to do over time. And generally, I mean, what you really want to, if you were to be precise, you would try to figure out what they could have sold those options for in the open market, because that is the opportunity cost of giving them to the employees instead of selling the same option in the market. I think you'll find generally that if you take a value of about a third for 10-year options, if you take a value of about a third, obviously it depends on dividend rate and volatility, a whole bunch of things, but about a third of the market value, strike price at the time they issued, that's the expectable cost. We believe in using the expectable cost versus the actual cost. I mean, that is how we would look at it. If we were issuing options at Berkshire and we issued options on $100 million worth of stock a year, we would figure it was costing us, probably in our case with no dividend, at least $35 million a year to issue those options. And we would figure that if we gave people $35 million in some other form of results-oriented compensation, that it would be a wash. And that is not the way most managements, of course, figure. At least that's my experience. And we would figure we could use that $35 million in a more shareholder-oriented way, and one where the employee was productive, would be sure of getting results as opposed to having it be at the whims of the market. And I think you'll see a lot of option repricing. Everybody says they won't reprice their options until they do it. And I mean, you'll see that with a lot of schemes. It will be interesting to see whether Conseco is willing to bankrupt all the executives who made loans to buy the stock and had those loans guaranteed by the company, and the company initially said they would enforce those loans, and we'll see whether they do it. I would say in many cases they won't. I don't know what Conseco will do. But a lot of things that are said in connection with executive in option schemes and that sort of thing are what they'll do if it works in their favor, and then they'll do something else if it doesn't work in their favor, and that's not spelled out in the initial approval that's granted. Charlie, you want to have anything to add on?
Well, Warren's somewhat critical attitude is very understated compared to mine.
We're going to leave raisins out of this particular analysis. Let's go to area 2. We do believe, incidentally, I mean, if a company is going to end up giving out 10% of the year, over a 10-year period, or 15% on options, that is like buying an apartment house and letting the seller keep a 10 or 15% interest in the upside, or it's like buying an oil field and giving somebody a 10 or 15% interest-free override. It changes the value of the property. Make no mistake about it. It has a huge economic impact on the value of a property. And just go out and try and sell your house and say, I want to keep 15% of the appreciation in it, and ask the buyer whether he's going to pay the same price for the house. Options subtract value the moment they are granted. And like I say, unless some companies follow a practice of making a mega grant every 3 or 4 or 5 years, a lot of them just issue a fairly constant amount annually, and you can figure out the cost. And they don't want to tell the shareholders there's a cost, and that's why they fought through Congress and everything else in order to prevent it from being the truth. But Galileo had that problem many years ago and finally won out, so maybe we will too. Yeah, area 2.